feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your world. The right leader. That's impact the right way. Many voices, many faces, all this. Many voices. That's impact the right way. Many voices, many faces.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Let's Get It Right with me, your host, Vernon Wright. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at The Right Leader. Hashtag That's Impact the Right Way. And of course, as well, make sure that you follow the hashtag, the many voices of grit. And as I always say on Twitter, many voices, many faces, all grit. So ladies and gentlemen, we have once again on this show, a treat for you. Someone that many of you have seen on Twitter. You've seen their responses, you've seen their interactions. It's someone that within the educational PLN is, dare I say, a household name. But you may not have ever seen this person on camera. Well, today is happening. So you might be wondering, I've seen, Vernon, at the bottom of the screen, this title. And there's a reason why this episode is titled Dr. Cali Grit. And you're probably wondering, there goes that Vernon guy again with these crazy episode names. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just have to bring it real like that because we have a phenomenal guest on the show today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor, privilege, absolute pleasure to bring to you today, Dr. Tim Fulenwider. Dr. Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks, Vernon. That's quite the introduction. I'm almost looking around trying to figure out, hey, where's this guy that he's talking about? Anyway, my name's Tim Fulenwider. I'm out here in Bakersfield, California, and I get the privilege of being the director of Instructional Support Services here at the Bakersfield City School District. You know, as my day job and my passion and my career. So I've been born and raised here in Bakersfield, California. Tried to leave at one point, because I thought this was the place not to be. I needed to go someplace else. But let me tell you, Bakersfield has a way of drawing people back in. Came back, made this my home and my career here, and just love serving the community here in Bakersfield. So that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome, fabulous, ladies and gentlemen. There is a reason why I'm calling him Dr. Cali Grit, and you're going to see more about that as we go into the episode. So, Dr. Tim, or maybe I should call you Dr. Cali Grit. As we get ready to go into the episode, let's go ahead and let's just start with question number one, because of course you and I have talked about this obviously in advance off camera, and it's phenomenal stuff that I want to go ahead and have you share with the audience. So question number one, for those of you that follow me and you know how this episode works and how the show works, Tim, tell us about some times, or a time in particular, when you were going through some things and maybe you didn't realize that it was grit at the time, but a little bit of time passed, you look back on your life, those moments of introspection, and you said, hey, you know what? That was grit that I went through and grit that I showed. Tell us a little bit about that. Speak to us.
So I think there's a couple of times I can really describe for you. The first, and you know, I grew up, I never thought about grit. I never viewed things that way. And I think later in life, I realized, well, maybe that was grit, or maybe that's what's helped me do some things that I've done today. So the first thing was, I had this summer job once, right? So out here in Bakersfield and the surrounding area, there's a lot of agriculture. There's vineyards. So I had this summer job in the grape fields. And I remember going out there, working in the grape fields, weighing boxes and tying down trucks and doing irrigation work. And I remember thinking, this hard work. I said, I don't really want to do this type of work for the rest of my life. I mean, it's hot. I realized that out in agriculture, the normal work week, that's 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. There are different rules out here in this whole community. There were all kinds of different things that I saw and witnessed, and I thought, wow, this is really fascinating, interesting, what's going on here. And anyway, you go through some of that working, and I remember one time I had this job they wanted me to do out there, and they said, look, this guy broke his leg, and they said, I want you to do this job. I said, okay, what is it? So we want you to go along the rows of these vineyards, and we want you to unhook the drip line at the end, 10 rows at a time. I said, okay, I can do that. And then uncrimp the drip line, and then we want you to turn around and go back and close them up. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. And they said, we want you to do that for this whole vineyard. It took a whole week, 6 hours or 6 days, 10 hours a day, doing that same thing all day long in 105-degree heat out there. And I remember thinking after the first day, oh my gosh, this is miserable, terrible work here. But you know what? That's work that happens. So it was really an interesting time for me to get through that, to have to do something I really didn't want to do, and to just go through that and experience what a lot of people, honestly, that is their way of life here in the world. And it gave me a lot of perspective, and it helped me understand, I think, what a lot of people go through, and having experienced that even for a short period of time, gave me a little bit of background of something to apply to my life. And then, as I entered in education and dealt with things, I think another big thing for me was this experience I had when I became a principal at a middle school. So I'd been a principal at an elementary school. I've been successful. People liked me as a principal. I thought this is great, right? This is good work, and I'm hot. The superintendent calls me in. We want you to go over to this school. I'm like, hey, that's great. I'm moving. I'm grooving. This is a compliment. And I remember getting to that school. She said, oh, you're going to love it over there. It's great. The staff is great. And I got to the school, and unfortunately, the picture that had been painted for me was not the picture of what it was. And the school is a very tough place to be. And there were a lot of things going on at practices that were bad for kids. And it was very heartbreaking. And on top of that, the staff really didn't want to change. They liked how things were. It was working for them. It wasn't working for kids. And honestly, you could predict which kind of kids were going to be successful based on the color of their skin at this particular school. And it was very difficult. And I remember having the conversation with my wife, because it was breaking me. Like, I didn't have the support to make the change that I needed, because from the district's perspective, everything was fine. And I had that talk with my wife at spring break about, I may have to quit. I may not be able to do this. I don't think I can go through this. I just don't have what it takes to do this work. And I remember my wife encouraging me, and I remember the last day of that year, this teacher had a showdown with me in front of everybody in the cafeteria. And actually, as we walked out of the cafeteria, that teacher and I stared me down as we walked all the way down the cafeteria, because he was going to show everybody like he could, stand up to this person who was trying to change what was going on at their school. And, I got through that. And over the summer, I did a lot of soul searching. And I realized that, quitting wasn't the answer. Going someplace else wasn't the answer. I needed to kind of buck up and do what needed to be done at the school, come back a leaner, meaner, stronger individual and leader, and help lead this school in the direction that it needed to go. And I did that. I didn't quit. I came back. And you know what? I started off the year with a very strong vision and message with the staff. I was able to make some staff changes that needed to happen. And I was able to find a couple leverage points to move forward to really help highlight the outstanding kids that we did have there that people weren't viewing And, as a result, I scraped, I clawed, I got through it, and started to make change there at the school. And when I look back at that experience, going through what I went through there, really prepared me for other challenges in life. And it gave me a little bit of that grit, if you will. And I draw back to that. So when I go through tough times, I draw back to that. And I think, you know what? What I'm going through now, that's not as tough as what I went through then. And you know what? I can learn lessons from what I went through back then to apply to today. So those are just a couple examples for me of what grit means to me, and being able to reflect on past experiences and apply them and think, you know what? I got through that moment. I got through that hard week. I got through that physical labor. I got through whatever it was, physical, mental, whatever, and recognize that, you know what? I can get through whatever's in front of me here today too, God willing.
That is awesome. Tim, I do want to go ahead and say that there is so much richness and so much depth in what you have just shared. And of course, obviously, you and I have talked off camera about this, so we know that there's even more for us to share. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we do have some time constraints on this episode, but maybe in the future, Tim, you can come back and share even more of that with us, because I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, they're just heavy pieces of wisdom you can pull from this whole story and what it is and what it played out to be in Tim's life in a really magnificent way. So with about 3 minutes left or so, I want to go ahead and fast forward again, honoring our time constraints. I want to go ahead and fast forward to the last question, which for viewers that have been watching my episodes and following me, you know that this is really my favorite question of all of them. And it is this. It's what I call the letters from the future question. And simply, Tim, Dr. Tim, or obviously, as I call you, one of your nicknames here from the show, Dr. Cali Grit. If you were able to jump in a time machine and go back in time and give a letter to your younger self, what wisdom, guidance, advice, insights, and really just hope through the use of words would you put in that letter that you would give to your younger self? What would be in that letter? Talk to us about that.
So the first thing I would say is don't compare yourself to other people. That your journey is simply your journey. So you're the sum total of all your experiences, all your traumas, all your gifts, all those opportunities you had. And when you compare yourself to other people, you either end up with this false belief that you're better than them, you're the same as them, or you're not as good as them. And the reality is that those things lead to complacency or doubt or shame in your life. And so honor your own journey. Honor other people's journey as their own, but don't compare your journey to their journey. Second, I would say find people who are experiencing success inside and outside of the areas that you have your goals and build relationships with them. Who you surround yourself with will determine in many ways who you are and what you become. And you want to learn from other people's journey. You want to see the wisdom of their experiences. How did they develop their grit? What came about? You can learn from them, and so pick those people wisely and who you're around. Third, view everything as an opportunity. My boss's favorite word is opportunities. And I remember having this conversation with him, and he referenced that George Corris book and talking about how everything you just view it as an opportunity. There is no trauma, there is no tough time that can't be reframed into an opportunity for growth if you view it that way. So everything you're going through, it's an opportunity. You have to just learn to see the opportunity in it. Fourthly, I'd say understand that you're going to fail and you're going to succeed throughout your life. So, they're incredibly fruitful experiences to be successful, but, also to be failing. is okay. And you can learn a lot from those things. So make sure that you do that. Analyze your goals. Don't fool yourself into thinking that you were better or you were just, it was because of you. Recognize all the things that contributed to a success. Recognize all the things that contributed to a failure. Don't fool yourself, and then apply those things for the future. Embrace when you fail and learn and grow from that. And then lastly, compete with yourself daily. So the idea is that every day, be a better you. It kind of goes back to the first thing I mentioned. Don't compete with other people, compete with yourself. And when you focus on that and you celebrate the inner competition, you're never going to be dissatisfied because you can always compete the next day. If I'm competing against Vernon over here and Vernon's always got me, I might be disappointed and dissatisfied every single day. But when I'm competing with myself, if today I didn't do so well, I can get right back up on it. I can win tomorrow and just be a better version of myself. And honestly, that's all we can ask anybody in this world. Be a better version of yourself each day.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, just power packed. I know that might sound like a cliche, but truly the last few minutes of what Tim has shared with us has been deep, folks. And I'm just being honest with you, and I'm just being real with you. Deep, 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 deep information that Tim has shared. Looking back on your life and looking for opportunities and how we frame them, how we see them, really using yourself as your own benchmark, becoming a better version of you, and really having that as the aim and the focus. So I just want to personally go ahead on camera. I've done this as well off camera, but go ahead and show my appreciation to Dr. Tim Fulenwider for being here on the show today. It has been our privilege, honor, and pleasure. And ladies and gentlemen, this is one that you would absolutely think, you know what? I need to share this with my colleagues and my friends. So please do that. Share it and pay it forward. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and remember to look for, if you're ever in California, Dr. Tim Fulenwider, or as we know him here on the episode, Dr. Cali Grit. So until next time, remember, feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. That's impact the right way. See you next time.
Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. The right leader. That's impact the right way. Many voices, many faces, all great. This